So the next thing that I want to talk about is cleaning. And this is really important because in any wood stove you have your smoke pipe and you have your chimney, and that needs to be kept clean. And you have your ash pan where the ashes from the stove, from the fire fall, or sometimes there is an ash pan as there is here, and you have to clean it out. That's what people are used to. What they're not used to is cleaning out the smoke path. And the smoke path has to be cleaned. And I don't know how many times when I used to do outdoor shows in Canada, people would come up to me and say, there's something wrong with my sweetheart or with my oval. I say, well, what do you mean? Well, I've had it for like a year, and when I first had it, it was great. The thing ran perfectly, but now I can't get any heat out of it. And I would say, have you cleaned it? I'd say, well, yeah, did you clean inside? Well, what do you mean? Well, the first one is this one. This is a cleanup. And with every stove, it comes with it this tool that people wonder what it is. This is called a rake. And this is the key instrument for cleaning the inside of the stove, the smoke path. And just to give you an idea of how big this is, this doesn't have the flue boot on. Even without the flue boot at the back, that's how deep that cavity is, that front to back. So it's really, really important that that be kept clean. Now that's the first and most important cleanup. There's a second one when there's a water reservoir on the stove, as this one has. There's a second one right here, and it's screwed on, and it's a raised bracket that is designed for cleaning the area around the water reservoir. And then there's a third one located, this is bolted in, I believe. Yeah. On the back of the flue boot, you can see almost through there. I don't know if Derek, if you can see that in through there, but you can see if you look through the opening that there's another one on the back of the stove, in the back of the flue boot. And those are all designed to give access to the smoke path. And it's critical that those be kept clean. Now in the PowerPoint, one of the rules of thumb that I mentioned, people say, well, how often do you do it? What I always say is that with a new stove, you should always be inspecting at least once a week until you see it. Now once you get used to it, you may find that you may have to clean that twice a week. If you're not running the stove correctly, you might find you need to clean it once a winter. I ran a whole system for many years that was professionally sized and installed, and I would get the guys to come every spring, and they'd say, I'm not even really sure why you have us coming, because there's nothing in there. So it was clean. But I always had them come because I wanted them to inspect it and make sure that nothing had distorted or something had come loose. It's really important when you're dealing with heat like this that you have everything in really good operating condition. Now on the way you do this on the artisan, I'm not going to take this out. Rick is much cheaper than me, and he can probably manage it when I can't. There's a tool that comes with this, and you take this whole piece of iron out. It weighs probably 150 pounds. But if you take that out, that's how you get access into the cleaning area of this unit. With these, it's very, very similar. As I said earlier, with the Sweetheart and the Oval, the features are just about identical. It's mostly a difference in size. The other thing that's really important with the cooking surfaces is the cooking surfaces are iron. And it's really common with somebody who's new to this for them to be coming in to seeing the dealer and saying, there's something wrong with my stove because it's all turned bright orange. Well, what's happening is it has surface rust on it. That's not uncommon. Let's say somebody has a camp and they leave the stove for the winter and it's damp and it isn't run for a while. They come back 3 or 4 months later and it's covered in surface rust. Now it looks worse than it actually is. That can be cleaned off, but when the whole of the iron is orange, it doesn't look good. So when these stoves are shipped here from the factory, they're oiled. And we highly recommend the use of cooking oil on a regular basis. Now, if it's put on when the stove is too hot, it'll just burn off. So you should do it when it's lukewarm, and particularly if you're going to shut the stove down for a season because you're closing your camp up, you should be leaving a significant amount of oil on the iron. It will seep in, but you want to be sure that it's oiled. When you're using it every day, it's not that much of an issue. Although if you're, let's say, have a pan on there and there's no oil at all, you could get a little rust just from water dripping onto the top of the stove. But the larger issue is ensuring that if the stove sits, that it's oiled enough that it won't start to rust.